Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Daily Task Chat, where we'll be diving into collections and archives. I'm Natalie. I am the Head of Change and Communications here at the Society of Genealogists, and we'll go around the room and introduce ourselves before we dive into the task. So, Ruth, you're on my left again. So,
I'm Ruth. I'm the Events and Education Manager here at the Society of Genealogists.
Thank you. And Jude?
I'm family and local historian based in Leeds. Not in Leeds. Why did I say that? In Yorkshire.
We were talking about Leeds earlier. That's probably right. And Tahisha, please.
Yeah, hi, my name is Tahisha McCabe, and I'm the head of the Strathclyde Institute for Genealogical Studies in Glasgow, and we're sponsoring all about this place and sponsoring today the Archives and Collections Day, so really pleased to be here.
Perfect. And Liz. Oh, you're just on mute, Liz.
Sorry, I'm Liz Craig. I'm from the Society for One Place Studies.
And last but by no means least, Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe Saunders. I'm Vice Chair of the British Association for Local History.
Thank you. Right, I will quickly share my screen so that everyone watching can see whereabouts in the workbook we're talking about. Now, please bear in mind this is a draft version, so there might be minor changes like page number changes and things like that when you get the final version. So today, like I say, we're diving into collections and archives, and actually this is the only task I think that I've brought back from last year, and I think it's because it's such a valuable exercise to do. So your task for today is for you to identify the archives, the record offices, the collections that you would like to either visit or access online, and then to do a search of their catalogue and identify which documents you'd want to view, and there's a space there for you to include any references as well. As always, there's extra note pages at the end of the workbook as well if you find that you're got mountains that you'd like to order. So that you can see everybody's lovely faces, I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to come to you, Tahisha. I think visiting the archives for the first time can be quite nerve-wracking, especially if you've not done it before or you haven't done it in a long time. What would you say to people who might be a bit nervous about visiting an archive or identifying documents?
Yeah, no, it is nerve-wracking, even for somebody like me who's been doing it for a while, and I've got lots of academic experience and so on and so forth, and it is going to a new archive for the first time, or just going to any archive if you've never been, is nerve-wracking. What I do, what I find really helps, is to get as much information about the archive as I possibly can, just to understand, what's happening there. So look at the archive's website. If you're on Facebook, a lot of archives have Facebook or social media. So getting a sense of who they are through those communication channels. But looking at how do I get there? Making sure that you know all of those. If you're driving, where to park. If you're taking public transport, all those kinds of things. Does it have a cafe? Check. Do you need a pencil? Which will be the case for most things. And so that's what I would suggest first and foremost. And then the other thing I would suggest doing is if they do have an online catalog, and not all archives do, and if they don't, look to see if there's a federated, like a conglomerate catalog online, and search that to see if there's something of interest. But more than that, what I would suggest doing, well, I would definitely suggest looking at the catalog, but then I would suggest emailing the archive and saying, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm interested in this, and I'm hoping to come. But the other issue is, particularly now, given cuts and budget restrictions and all those kinds of things, increasingly archives are needing people to tell them when they're coming, like to book a space. So yeah, to definitely check that out, and then email ahead, to say, hi, I want to come on this day or this day or this day, and this is what I'm interested in, because the archivists are the people who know about what's in their archive, but also what's in that area, and what might be on the catalog might only be the tip of the iceberg in terms of what you're interested in, and they'll pull out amazing things that you would have never thought about, bizarre, strange things that are wonderful. So yeah, so look at the webpage, get a sense of who they are, where they are, search the catalog, and then email them. Make contact before you go, for sure. Those are my top. That always makes me feel better. But then there's still, that trepidation of walking in someplace for the first time, and
It is
feeling like
nerve-wracking, I
it
think. And
is.
but
It
I would agree
is.
with you. I totally agree with you about the emailing in. I know, for example, we have an item limit. So we say on our website, you can order so many items. But actually, if you email us and say, these are the things I'm interested in, sometimes they'll be stored in the same box. And so we might be able to work around that and get more out for you. Or we might be able to say, actually, this one is digitized. So, don't order that one. You can see that one on the computer and then you can get an extra item. So it's always worth emailing. Jude, you've raised your hand, so I'll come to you.
I have, because I think it's something that I wanted to mention that's kind of ties into all this, is if someone hasn't ever been to an archive before, I would say start really small. Don't just book into a huge archive. And when I say really small, I use an archive quite regularly that is wonderful, and it's a heritage centre in one of my local libraries. And if you start small like that, that gives you the first chance of touching, holding old documents in a very supportive way, because you might be the only person there asking to see these documents. And so the staff are super helpful. So that would be one of my tips, is start really small, get used to how things are presented to you, and the feel of old documents.
Fabulous tip. And Liz.
I'm a self-confessed archives junkie. I absolutely love it for all the reasons that Jude has just outlined. Holding those documents when you might be one of only a couple of people who's held those documents since they were created. It's an absolutely magical feeling. And again, as Tahita said, preparation is absolutely key. The National Archives is probably the archive I use most often, just because all my study places, apart from my street study, are quite a long way away from me. And I always go with a research list longer than I can achieve, because I just hate the thought of being there and thinking, oh, I've got 2 hours left and I've got nothing to do. So I always make a list. I put it in priority order as well. I make sure I've got the documents in the order I want to look at them. So I'm doing the things that I most want first. And of course, your research list might change while you're there as well. You might discover something which then leads on to another document. So you might want to reprioritize your list a little bit. So, and one of my genealogical bad habits was I used to print off my research list, and then I used to annotate it in pencil, and I was always so excited when I got home about all my discoveries that I was really bad at updating my list. So I take a laptop with me now, and then I update my list as I go, and then I just cut and paste the documents I've looked at and put them at the bottom of the list, and I make a note which pages or items from that set of documents I've copied. So if I ever want to know if I've looked at that again, I can just do a word search, or for the document reference or the title of the document, and I can see if I've looked at it before, the date I looked at it, and what parts of it I copied, so I don't end up repeating it and copied the same thing again. So having a good research list, I think, for me is key.
That's a really, really good tip. I made the mistake of visiting an archive years and years ago. Actually, with my mum, we did a whole week of different archive trips. And one, it was a little bit too much, because we did so much archive trips that we came home with so many notes that inevitably they sat in a drawer. And then inevitably 2 years later, I looked at them and I don't understand anything that I've actually written. And we made a couple of really interesting discoveries and went off on those tangents. And then actually a lot of the other stuff got left behind and I need to redo it. So yeah, you can be an archive junkie, but measure your doses. It's probably an analogy that should stop there now. Right, Tahisha.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just going off on Liz's ideas, which excellent. One thing that I have had happen to me before is you're taking photographs on your digital camera, and you've got your laptop as well, but sometimes, well, often actually, I find for me, I tend to be unfortunate. You're not put in a place that has a plug-in, so I'm like finding my phone losing battery. So take an auxiliary power bank with you that you can just recharge your phone just in case. I mean, you might get lucky and have a charge, but then also remember to bring your charger, both your phone charger and your laptop, plug in as well. I find time goes by incredibly quickly when I'm in an archive. I was just at the Glasgow City Archives last Wednesday to do some research, and I had they were open 4 to 11, sorry, 11 to 4, other way around. And I got there at 11. I thought, oh, I'm gonna have tons of time. And suddenly it was 1:30 and I was starving to death. So I went and had a quick bite, and then it was 2 and I had 2 hours left. And I mean, I got through everything, but it's just like the time went by like that. So yeah, so be realistic about what you can get accomplished. And yeah, also do check the archives stand on you taking photographs or not, because at the city archives they were fine with it, but I had to fill out another form and tell them what I had taken photos of. Some archives don't have you do that, but the city archives did. So again, just knowing, I suppose, what the and they'll tell you too, when you go, what's required. So thankfully the archivists that I've come across have been really generous and welcoming and warm. So I think you just have to approach them with a, I'm new, I help me out, and they're very, very happy to get you in the mode of doing things the correct way for that place. So
absolutely. For years, I used to look at catalogues and quite often end up finding them confusing or not quite find what I wanted, or be a bit baffled by descriptions. And for years, I thought, it's me. I'm missing something. I'm being a bit dim here. And then really, it's only when I started, visiting them and now working in an archive that I go, it's not me. It's quite often the catalogues. These catalogues are made, as we acquire things. And if you've got a really old archive, that could be hundreds of years worth of cataloguing, and you don't start fresh every year and redo it as things modernize or as you learn more about a document, etc., etc. So I think that's some fantastic tips. And just to finish off, Joe, I know that you're a big archive fan as well. Have you got, other than the Society of Genealogists, fantastic archive, library and research hub, have you got any others that you particularly love visiting?
Yeah, obviously, apart from the Society of Genealogists, I mean, I don't know. There are some. Not all archives are equal. I think there are some that feel nice for various reasons. I think, a lot of ordinary record offices up and down the country have got a more intimate feel generally, rather than things like the National Archives or National Records Scotland, that, all due respect to their staff, are huge and they're big institutions that can be a bit impersonal. Whereas I walk into some of my, the record offices that I use quite often, things like the Borthwick in York, or in Carlisle, the record office there, where the staff know you, or they know the kind of research you do, and you say hello, and that kind of thing. That always feels nice. I was in Aberdeen a couple of months ago at the special collections there, and university special collections generally are always really nice. Usually you're only 1 or 2 people are in. The researchers usually are incredibly knowledgeable about a very intimate collection, a very odd collection. Usually get lots of different things that come in, so it's always quite exciting. So that's lovely. So yeah, all sorts of I mean, you pick different ones for different reasons, I suppose, really. Yeah, no, just go out and all the way from the big, huge National Archives right the way down to your local study centre. They'll all feel different, and you'll enjoy them all in different ways, I think, for the different things they have to offer. So.
I was just thinking there as well about how one thing that I said just before we hit record, I was like, oh, I must mention to people that, a lot of archives do have copy services and ways of helping you. I know, is it the National Library of Scotland, Ruth? Is it the virtual reading room?
Yes, National Library of Scotland and actually the Library of Wales both have virtual reading rooms where they have a camera that looks down, and they have volunteers and staff that can put the documents under it and act as your hands, so that you can see it and you can, from your own home, view the documents. And I believe more and more archives are having that kind of service, so you can book an hour and virtually view the collections. So
Fantastic.
Definitely worth looking into.
Which is great. Although if you do ever get a chance to go to the National Library of Scotland, go, because you're on the top floor of this fantastic building in the centre of Edinburgh. right next to the spire of St Giles's Cathedral. You can see Arthur's Seat, and on a good day, the sea as well. So yeah, I've decided that's my favourite archive.
Yes, I'm with you there, Joe. Yeah.
We've got a canal.
We do.
Visit the canal from us. Fantastic.
And ducks. And
Yeah,
canal boats.
rival ducks.
I think
I agree with Joe about the university archives as well. I use the Brotherton Library quite a lot, and it's fantastic for the area that I research predominantly. So yeah, so many archives, and there's the specialist archives, you know, the Royal College of Nursing archive, again in Edinburgh, but all these specialist archives, it just goes on and on, doesn't it? It's a huge topic.
I think every archive I visited, the staff have been really friendly, really helpful. You know, I've never, you know, felt unwelcome in an archive. You know, so, some, I guess, you know, as Joe says, have a more personal feel than others, but every single member of staff I've spoken to has always been really helpful. And, you know, as Tahita said to start with, if you email first, I often find I get a better response than if I phone, because you're putting somebody on the spot a bit if you phone unintentionally, but, you know, they're having to come up with an answer. Whereas if you email, they can take their time, pass it on to the person that might know most. So you actually might get a fuller response if you email, but do allow plenty of time, because sometimes you'll get an automated response saying it might take up to 10 days to reply to your email. So don't leave it too close to your visit.
I visited an archive recently, and the archive in Dorchester, and we got out a very large pedigree tree that had been written on wallpaper. And actually, the other people researching, everybody kind of went, "Ooh!" And then before we knew it, we had a little group of us round, kind of just ogling this document that actually didn't turn out to be something that we needed or related to the research that we were doing, but it was just a wonderful kind of community moment. So I think that's a really lovely note to end on, Liz, about how friendly and how inclusive it can be. Okay, well, we've waxed lyrical about collections and archives, so we haven't convinced somebody to, you know, give them a go either online or offline. I don't know what more we can do to twist your arm. So hopefully we've convinced lots of people watching to go try it for the first time. So thank you all very much for joining me today. We'll be back tomorrow for another daily task chat. I think tomorrow is our last one. I'm recording this ahead of time, so I'm trying to get the day straight in my head. But yeah, we'll see you tomorrow.